Oh, jeepers. I didn't see you there, listeners. Oh, I'm just looking for something. Say, you haven't seen a man with a pitchfork, have you? About yay big. Really, really ought to put a bell on that little fella. You know, sometimes we don't see what's right in front of us. Sometimes things don't always appear what they are. And sometimes they appear exactly as they are to the naked eye. Tonight's story is about a young man who starts his first shift as a night security guard. But what he doesn't know is that he's not alone. Exterior, the Hub building. Nightfall. A young African American man by the name of Chris Lewis is following another man, his supervisor, Micah Smith, down a hallway. Micah. And this is the East Wing. Every couple hours, just come around and scope out the area. We usually get a couple of kids coming around hoping to see something. Chris. What are they looking for? Micah. That's right. You're new to the area. A couple of years back, a security guard, like yourself, came to work one day, handed his boss his 2-week notice, and then shot him in the head. Chris was taken back. What happened to the guard? Micah looked at him sternly. After he shot his boss, he went door to door, killing anyone who answered. By the time the police arrived, he had turned the gun on himself. 23 people died that day. Chris, is that why the city wants to demolish this building? Micah, staring blankly up at the building. Yep. Too much bad press. No one wants to renovate a place with as much baggage as this one. It's too bad. She used to be a beauty. Micah pats Chris on the shoulder. Good luck. Micah leaves. Chris, clearly impatient, sitting inside his squad vehicle, bored and eager for something exciting to happen, starts to search the radio stations for something. A loud crash grabs Chris's attention. He quickly grabs his flashlight and exits the vehicle hastily. A little while later, Chris strolling down the hallway, checking in every room and hallway in the area he seems to think John was just in. The sound of children giggling grabs Chris's attention. He turns, face scowled, cautious but curious. He flashes the light once again on the room closest to him. He then heads towards the noise. Unbeknownst to Chris, the shadow figures of children running behind him. He turns in a flash, but sees nothing. As he makes his way further down the hallway, he can hear someone crying. Chris calls out, "Hello?" But there's no response. The crying continues. Chris. Hello? Who's there? No response, has Chris wondering if in fact he should proceed. Chris. This is private property. Anyone caught trespassing may result in jail and or a fine of up to $250. Nothing but the evening silence answered back. Chris thought to himself, that's right, Chris. Nothing scares people more than someone who sounds like an infomercial. Chris continues flashing his light around, searching for whoever or whatever is causing all the noise. Out of nowhere, a clash. Chris goes running down the hall and around the corner. He reaches an abandoned apartment. He hesitates. He searches around the apartment for the noise. Chris. This is Officer Chris Lewis. Come out with your hands up. I've always wanted to say that. A subtle, yet spooky giggle of a child chills Chris to his very core. As he flashes around the apartment, a creak in the floor grabs Chris's attention, causing him to focus the light in the exact direction. He enters a room off to the side. He cautiously steps into the room. A rustle in the corner draws his flashlight. He sees something moving in the corner. Chris. Whoever you are, come out peacefully and no one will be harmed. No response from that noise. Chris continues toward it. Chris. This is your last warning. Come out peacefully. Chris approaches the noise, hands and body shaking with nervousness. He hears the rustling. Then suddenly a couple of teenagers pop out from the shadows, scared out of their wits, with their hands high in the sky. One of them says, Wait, don't shoot. Chris jumps back a foot, hand on his chest like he's gonna have a heart attack. The other one speaks up. It was just a joke. Please don't hurt us. Chris takes a big gulp. You almost gave me a heart attack. The hell are you doing here? You know you could get hurt? One of the teen responses. We were just messing around. Another one chimes in. Not like we have to explain to Paul Blart here. He's not even a real cop. This infuriates Chris. I may not be a real cop, but I sure can give you a real ass whooping. The teens brush off the threat. Chris says to them, Now get out of here before I call your parents. Instantly, the teens take off running as fast as they can. Chris watches them leave while putting his flashlight away. Unbeknownst to him, a child standing behind him, almost out of nowhere in the darkness. He turns around, startled by the child's sudden appearance. Chris. Jesus, kid. Where'd you come from? The child says nothing. Are you lost? Chris asks. Again, no response. If you're looking for the other two, they went that way, he says to the child. Still no response. Chris decides to approach. Can you talk? Do you need a ride? The child continues to stay silent. At this point, Chris is at a bit of a dead end with what to do. Chris. Look, I can call dispatch and see if... Chris turns around to holster his flashlight, but the child is gone. Hey, kid! Chris shouts, searching all over the room for him. Chris flashes around, trying to see if he can see where the child may have run off to. But after a moment, he shrugs his shoulders and carries on. Hours have now passed, and Chris is nearly at the end of his shift. He appears to be exhausted and barely able to keep one eye open. Chris. One more hour, He leans back in his seat to get comfortable, and he slowly begins to drift off. Moments later, Chris is woken up by a loud clash. Chris. Freaking kids. Chris rushes up the stairs to the second-story hallway, peering around, looking for those teenagers from earlier. Chris. Come out, come out. Come on, guys. Let's not go through this again. Dark shadows creep behind Chris, without his knowledge. Chris continues his search. He searches the apartment from earlier. Chris. Come on, guys. I don't have time for this. Why don't you come back in like half an hour? Then you'll be some other guy's problem. No response. Instead, the sound of footsteps comes from behind him, causing him to turn around quickly. Chris looks around in the same area as last. Nothing's there. Tired and fed up, he turns to leave. Chris, completely annoyed. You know what? Hope you guys fall and hurt yourself. As he turns around, the kids from earlier that he chased off are standing behind him, stiff, staring blankly back at him. Chris. Oh, jeez. You two again? Didn't I tell you guys to go home? One of them responds. We tried. Chris. Try harder. Another teen responds. We can't leave. Chris looks at him, confused and lost. Why not? One of the teens, frightened beyond belief, responds. He won't let us. Chris. He who? Right then, the teens both point at someone behind Chris. Chris, frozen where he stands, turns around, only to see the child from the darkness standing right behind him. You, what are you doing? The sinister child reveals a large chopping blade behind his back. Chris's eyes widen with fear. He turns quickly, hoping to leave hastily, but is met with trouble when the teens also reveal large knives from behind their back. The end. Here, Butchie, Butchie, Butchie. Here, Butchie, Butchie, Butchie. Where are you, you little... Oh. Hey there, listeners. Looks like Chris is a slice off the old block there. Until next time.